Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name's CritterXD. In today's video, I will have a very special guest on to join me in ranking the episodes of The Legend of Vox Machina Season 2. This one's going to be a two-parter because, well, there were 12 episodes and we got a little long-winded because we both really liked Season 2. I'm going to get right into the video, but before I do, I want to remind you to please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, and hit the little bell for notifications when I go live and post new content. Let's get into it. Hello! Today I have my cousin Ben here to talk about the episodes from Vox Machina Season 2 and rank them against each other. We've already done the characters. It was a brutal, surprising, just scorched earth experience, I think. I don't know, like how you would describe it, but it was intense. And so now we're here to see how similar we are with the episodes, and I'm really excited to get into it. How do you feel about the last character video? How do you think it went?
It was, I think, based on what we ranked the characters on, right? The things that we valued within the characters, I think our rankings were pretty fitting.
Yeah.
But I was a little surprised at how different they were. I was expecting there to be maybe a little bit of overlap. Really, I was expecting the bottoms and the tops to be the same and maybe the middles to be kind of interchanged. But that was not what happened at all.
Not at all, no. We like swapped the top and the bottom completely. It was, yeah, anyways.
Maybe, that's the nice thing about the show, because you can value totally different things and totally throw your characters all over the rankings. So
still have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. So now we're doing the episodes, and this is going to be the first of two videos. We're going to rank the bottom 6, so 12 through 7. Is that, I'm trying to... Wouldn't that be 6? Okay, yeah. 12 through 7 will be in this video, and then the next video will be 6 through 1. So we're gonna get the soft ones out of the way, hopefully. We'll see, though, if we have the same overlap. So I asked you this with the character video. I'll ask you again. How would you describe your system of ranking the episodes?
Yeah, I think... So I didn't overthink. I didn't overthink it too much. First was just like the feeling of like how did I feel about the episode, right?
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
I for any that I was just like struggling with, like, should this be higher, this one, I thought about what was accomplished in the episode, how significant were the things that were done in, whether it's progressing the storyline, whether it's progressing a character arc, whatever it is. But mainly it was kind of a gut feeling of like, this was the best episode, or this was, or whatever. So not too scientific on these.
That's fair.
What about you?
I watched the whole season, and then it's been like 2 weeks since the final episodes or something around there. So I went and I was just kind of staring at all the episodes in a list, and I had like the little things that had happened in the episodes. I took notes. And it was so hard for me because, again, it was like, I tried to remember how I felt, because that to me is probably the most important part of an episode. It's like how it impacts you. But like several weeks later, so for some of the earlier episodes, I was like, I don't really remember. And based on this description, this was an awesome episode. And so I really, more than with the character thing, because I could look back and see who I gave MVP to and all that stuff. And also Vox Machina kind of like organically brings people up to the top of the ranking in every episode, because it's like, oh, you can tell it's a Grog episode this episode. With the episodes, they were just all so good. I liked them a lot. It was hard. The first two were kind of easy for me, but then it just got brutal. So not much of a system. It was just me panicking. But I feel okay about the list now. Like, I really thought it through, so we'll see how it goes. All right, so the 12th best episode from Vox Machina Season 2, and we'll do our fingers in 3, 2...
Hold on. Let me make sure I got my fingers ready. Okay, I'm ready.
And 12th most valuable Season 2 episode in 3, 2, 1...
7.
2. You go ahead. Why 7?
One of the episodes has to be in last place. To me, it was 7. It felt like a progression of the storyline episode. There was no substantial or significant resolution in the episode. Also, the group was split up, and so I guess I should say Grog breaks his sword in this episode. So there is that, but it's basically like those two dragging Grog is like the whole episode, right? Or like most of the episode. and then the other 4 are in the Fey realm, and it's kind of just them walking. But so there is one pretty good fight scene in this. This is where Percy actually contributes in this season, is in this episode. But it just felt kind of like a filler episode. Like, we're going to try to progress the story, try to move from point A to point B so that we can then continue doing things. So that's why it falls at the bottom for me.
That's fair. 2 was kind of the same for me. It was like the build-up in a video game where you're getting a lot of dialogue and you're just clicking like skip, 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 skip. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I enjoy the episode a lot, but they were getting their overall season quest in this episode, and they didn't start the quest, they just got the quest. And so not a ton happened. It was a build-up episode. It was perfectly fine for what it was. It just wasn't as exciting as some other episodes for me. And I ranked Pike as my least most valuable character. This was her shining point in the season, and all she really did was be like, guys, let's do this. We got this. And that was it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's where it landed for me. It was a perfectly fine episode, but just not. It didn't have that wow factor for me.
Yep, fair.
Okay, so 11th best episode in Vox Machina season 2. We'll do the fingers again if I make sure I get it right. Okay, in 3, 2, 1.
2.
Nah, okay, close. Me and you were close then. Nice.
Yeah, I missed you by 1.
You go ahead, piggyback then.
So yeah, kind of the same that what you just said. It definitely felt like a filler episode. The whole Grog meeting the monk thing was pretty cool. I thought that was kind of a nice little nugget to throw into that episode. But really the only thing significant to me that happened in this episode was Pike kind of establishes herself as the crew's like moral compass, or like their faith, basically, right? Yeah. She's the faith, so that when they're all losing their courage, she kind of bolsters them up. So I like that part of it. I like Pike a lot as a character, just in general. So really enjoyed seeing that. But overall, not a lot really happens in episode 2.
Agreed. So I had episode 9 in spot 11 because the party is firmly split up in this episode. So I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering right, we only get half the party for the entire episode. We get Grog, Scanlan, and Pike. Scanlan goes on a fun little recon mission and gets like certain people from the town out, which is nice. I think we get some of Grog's backstory, which is probably the best part, as long as I'm remembering the right episode. But otherwise, it's basically Grog doubting himself and then eventually deciding like, no, I'm going to go confront my uncle, right? And so it was kind of, again, it felt a bit like a transition, and I missed the rest of the party members because, even though Grog is one of my favorites, all my other favorites were in the other party. So that was a little bit of a bummer. Okay, so episode 10, the 10 most valuable episode in Vox Machina season 2, in 3, 2, 1.
9.
Okay, we're so close. We're so much closer. Yep. So much closer. So go ahead again.
I'll just piggyback right off what you're saying. So I agree with everything you said again about this episode. I think the reason I put this one higher than the other 2 is because we do get a little bit of story. So we get a little bit more of a Grog's actual backstory. We get a little like who he is, how he became the way that he is. So that combined with kind of his realization that I can't just sit back on the sidelines. I have to confront my uncle, or else I'm like, how am I any better than or any different than I used to be, other than obviously not killing people. But so he at the end, him just walking in and challenging his uncle, I thought was awesome. That's why I have this episode where it is a little bit higher than the others, but still kind of on the slower side as far as episodes go. It
was a build up. I feel like all of our bottom episodes are like, okay, this isn't the big thing. This is the thing that's building up to the big thing. So brace yourself. But I agree. The end of the episode, whenever he like comes out and like zooms in on him or whatever, that was pretty great. Respect to Grog.
You have what you said. You had 3, right?
I had 3. That was the Sunken Temple episode. So it was. This is when things started to get dicey for me. Like I started kind of agonizing. This was the episode where Vex died. And so it had like a shock factor to it. but it kind of cut off right after that. And so in my head, I was thinking, we've seen people almost die before. How are they going to bring her back? What, I just wanted to see the resolution of it. And of course, they wanted to leave us on a cliffhanger, which they did. And so I found the next episode to be more satisfying because of the resolution was so good in that episode that it just like really overshadowed the build-up for it. The fight with the mer people was fine. It wasn't anything like super exciting. We had those two side characters, the tiefling and the paladin guy, who were intriguing, but nothing super cool was happening with them. They were just gonna betray them, at the soonest opportunity. And the coolest display of power for sure was Kiki and the tiefling doing the water thing, so parting the Red Sea so that they could get in. But again, it was kind of like we're going to try to get this thing, and they didn't get the thing that episode. And so it's one of those it just felt like it was kind of like it left you on the brink of something cool before the something cool actually happened. So that's what
I absolutely agree.
Oh, okay.
And you'll see how much I agree.
Here in just a moment. Okay, so the 9th best episode in Vox Machina season 2 in 3, 2, 1. Okay. You're just just a step behind me. That's so funny.
I'm one off every one of these. So I'll go first again.
Please.
One of the things that was going through my mind during episode 3 is that there aren't ever any really easy fights for Vox Machina. Like, there are some times that I want them to just go in and just kind of just beat up on people, and that doesn't ever really happen. And this was like a shining example of that. They go in and there's just a bunch of mer people, and in my mind, I'm like, they should just beat up. There's 9 of them at this point because those other 2 are in the group. So I'm like, there's 9 of them. They should just beat up all of these mer people, but they struggle, right? They're getting tossed around and beat up a little bit. They end up winning, obviously, but that was maybe a frustration of mine with this episode. Is I was like, this is a good example of a time they could have just won easily, right? If you're playing real D&D, every once in a while you're just going to happen upon a glade that has 2 goblins in it, and you just beat them both up and take their stuff, and it's on your way. Yeah, but that doesn't ever really happen in Vox Machina, and I kind of wish it had here for this episode.
Yeah, when you're thinking about it, they're supposed to come against dragons, multiple dragons, eventually, in order to kind of resolve this arc, the Chroma Conclave arc of this thing, and they're struggling against little mer people, and maybe mer people are just OP and we don't know it, but in my mind, looking at them, I was like, we should own these guys. What are you doing?
We should be winning harder than we are winning.
So, totally agreed. Okay, so episode 1 for me, this one was such a difficult one for me to place, because I love I'm a character-driven girly. We've talked about this, and nothing really happened story-wise with any of our main characters, right? Obviously, this was one hell of a setup for the season.
Yeah.
But we technically knew it was coming to a certain extent at the end of season 1, because we saw the dragons off in the distance at the very, very end of season 1, right? So you're like, okay, this is going to happen. It's about to happen. And then they spent an entire episode with it happening. Granted, it was amazing. The visuals were insane.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of like the episode went by so fast because it was just action, 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 action. You were wondering where everyone was going to be, whether everyone was going to survive. Gilmore came in clutch more than once, and at one point you thought he was going to die. So it was cool. It was an establishing episode, but I feel like I had a lot more emotional moments. There were episodes with bigger emotional impact by far than this episode, and that's why I put it up here.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
That's a fair assessment.
Okay.
Well, I'll get to my episode 1 a little bit later, and we can talk about it then.
A little bit later. Okay.
Yeah.
This video, we've only got a few left.
We will see.
We
will see.
Time will tell. All right. So number 8, the 8th best episode for Vox Machina season 2 in 3, 2, 1. 7, 6. Oh, close. Okay.
Almost. So 7. I already said my 7. Why is there 7 here?
Okay, so I really liked Grog taking down the sword. I had been waiting for it. I had been yelling at him to put it down. I had been, everything under the sun, and I thought it was going to take, I guess, more. But yeah. I did appreciate his just drive and, just wailing on it until it explodes. And sacrificing kind of himself for it, right? The sword's like, if you're going to take me down, I'm going to take you down with me. And he still destroyed it. And so that was a really cool kind of high point for Grog in the season. Not the highest point, because he had several high points, but it was one of his earlier high points that I appreciated a lot. They were in the Fey realm. This had the fight with the thing chasing Vax. And so I liked the Fey realm a lot. I liked how it looked a lot. I thought it was a unique take. I have learned from Critical Role people and D&D people that the Fey realm actually looks a lot different in Vox Machina than it's supposed to. Supposedly, it's just supposed to be kind of like an elevated reality. Well, in this case, it's like a Technicolor reality. And so I love the design choice that they made. I think we also meet Garmelli in this. Oh, yeah, in this Satyr guy. Yeah, and he's Pippin from The Lord of the Rings. He's Billy Boyd, and so I love that. There's a lot of things that I really appreciated about this. It was a really unique episode. Not to mention we got a little bit of the romance between Percy and Vex, which I always love. So for all those reasons, it was above the others so far. Great. It wasn't like the super heavy hitter. Those are further down the list, but it was solid in my opinion. Yeah,
I think middle of the road here. All these episodes were pretty good. I have 6 for this one. So that's when they meet Calgiori, the other Sphinx, and they complete his challenge. I'll be honest, I was not a huge fan of the we're gonna hurt you by hurting your feelings kind of thing. I just wasn't all that. I wasn't all that taken by that. But Scanlan's his song or his montage song for that was pretty funny and entertaining.
It was a banger.
It was good. But the first half of that episode, kind of because of the resolution of the Sphinx's riddle, was a little bit of a dud for me. The second half is awesome. That's when they first meet the dragon and fight him. Umbersil, I think, is the dragon's name. That's when they first fight him. So, you get kind of your first taste of what the dragon can really do, and he kind of beats up on him. Grog ends up stabbing Pike because he goes on a bloodlust rampage and ends up stabbing her. So, all around it was an action-packed episode. It had a lot going on. I think highlight of episode 6 to me was watching the Sphinx and the dragon fight. I thought it was really cool. That was the way that was done was really cool, and just the 2 huge flying beasts fighting each other was really cool. So solid episode. I think fits very well right in kind of the middle of the road of where the season is as a whole. But I enjoyed episode 6.
Okay, fair. I have it a little different. Just a little different than that. Just a little. Yeah. That's okay, though. We can be different. All right, so this will be then the final episode that we talk about in this video. We're going to do the top 6 in the follow-up video, so don't miss that. And if you haven't watched the character video yet, there's also one of those. So now, let's round this out with the 7th best episode from Vox Machina Season 2 in 3, 2, 1.
4.
5.
Oh, almost.
Oh, you're close.
Why 5?
5, I kind of said this before, maybe in the character video, but I loved 5. It felt so Avatar: The Last Airbender in all the best ways. We got a little bit of her backstory, Kiki's backstory. It was just a solid episode. I just didn't think that it super impacted the overall plot. She leveled up her abilities, which was great and really, really cool to see, which is why it's this high in my ranking. But overall, it was just kind of all about her, and which I love her. No shade. And it didn't do much for the overall season. And so at this point in the rankings, this is where I was just crying and gnashing my teeth and had no idea, because I really enjoyed it, but it just didn't have as much of an emotional impact as the ones that are further down. And that's really all. It was cool. The visuals were amazing, and all of that. And I was cheering for her the whole time. It just didn't have as much of a wow factor for me as some of the others.
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying there. I liked episode 5, but you're spot on in that it kind of felt like they could have picked that episode up and put it in like 4 or 5 different spots, and it would have fit there. So I have episode 4 here. That's where it starts with Vex getting revived because Vax kind of makes a deal with the devil that, take me instead of her. I liked this episode a lot because you get to see the first vestige, right? You get to see the first one of these that they get, and it's like a suit, and you're like, what is this going to be about? Okay. But it was really neat to be able for them to finally showcase, these super powerful items that the team is going to get, what can they actually do. So this is one of the most perilous points for the group as a whole, right? They're fighting that like big octopus monster thing that's turned everybody to stone, and if not for Vax and the Paladin, they would all still be down there stuck, as stones
to this day.
Being able to see Vax showcase his abilities and actually be, I think, very successful. I think he often starts fights and he throws his knives and they kind of just bounce off stuff. And that's kind of it. They're like, all right, well, I tried.
Dang it.
now you can see they're like, no, Vax is he's a legitimate contender. He's a contributor now. Like he's got some tricks up his sleeve with this new vestige. So I really enjoyed this episode. Thought that it fits really squarely right in the middle. Could have probably gone in a number of other areas, but the highs of this episode don't quite meet the highs of some of the other episodes, so that's why I have it here as number 7.
That's fair. And that's a good point about Vax. At the beginning of the season, in one of my reaction videos or something, I was talking about how I was curious to see Vex and Vax have an impact on fights with dragons, right? Because when you're picturing regular arrows, they're going to plink off the scales. When you're picturing throwing daggers, they're going to plink off the scales. There's only so much you can do as a street-level fighter, which is essentially what they are, against dragons. And so this season really elevated them power level-wise. And seeing that happen and seeing how much more of an impact they had on fights after the fact was super cool.
Totally agree.
Nice. Glad we agree on that. Okay, great. So that was the first 6 episodes. Some of them are gonna show up again in the next video because one or both of us haven't talked about them yet. But that'll be it for this video. Thank you for talking to me about this, and I look forward to talking about the next ones.
Yep, see you in the next one.
Thank you so much for joining. Stand by for part 2. It's coming very, very soon. I'm not going to keep you here any longer, but I will say one more time, please like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to take your support from me to the next level, you can become a patron on Patreon or a member on YouTube. Although any support is very much appreciated. That's it for now. Bye.